Hi, welcome back, and it's that time of the month again when I look at my top 5 from the photographs I took in this case, the month of October. Well, not necessarily took, the ones I posted and shared through various social media. Sorry, that was my phone binging then, I do apologise. Through the month of October. And if you want to see all of them, a link will appear just there. So, this one, really good mixture of colour and black and white. In fact, I think the majority of these are actually colour this year. Certainly for the top 5, they are colour. Although, I'm sorry, one moment. Okay, back again. I've turned my notifications on my phone to silent. Sorry about that. Right, so as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by my own forgetfulness. One camera does feature very heavily this month, which is interesting, but we'll see a reason why as we go through these, maybe. But let's kick off with the first shot, and this is a landscape. I don't take that many landscapes. I don't really consider myself much of a landscape photographer, and I'm really happy with the work that I come up with when I shoot landscapes. Now, to a large degree, I've never really put a huge amount of time into developing my skills as a landscape photographer, so, you know, I haven't really put the effort in. This was on a holiday in Spain, so this was taken end of September, beginning of October, and it's a shot looking down a beach on a nature reserve, on a sandbar, just off the coast of El Rompido in southern Spain. And you had to take a boat across to get to the sandbar. It was utterly deserted. I think we caught the first boat out there, and as you can see, there's just 2 people further on down the beach. This was shot on my Panasonic GX7. The light was just coming in really low at this point, and it just looked fantastic. And just the sense of emptiness on the beach was what I was trying to capture with this. And unusual for a beach photograph. I thought this one worked best in black and white, and that was a decision I took while I was editing. Wasn't really sure what it would look like before then, but really quite pleased with how this one came out, particularly for a landscape, which, as I say, I'm not a landscape photographer, so this is a rare moment where I'm actually happy with something that I took as a landscape. Now, moving on to shot number 2, and this again was from our holiday. So once again, this was taken using the GX7 because I took my Panasonic, my Lumix GX7 away on holiday with me. If you want to watch a video with all of the shots from the holiday and the kit I used and why I took it, I will actually link to that up there so you can go and have a look at that. And this is a shot from around the hotel. It was quite a stunning hotel. It was really nicely decorated, and there was this seated area around some orange trees with this tile work in it, and there was a load of flowers growing over a kind of pagoda type structure that was around it as well, and one of the petals had fallen down, and this is exactly where it was resting. And I liked the bright reddy pinks of the petal that had fallen down with the deep greens of the tiles and that kind of mosaic structure on the tiles, and then the slightly terracotta look of the flagstones that were around this area. And I cropped it in really tightly. And I didn't have to do a great deal to get colours as saturated as this because it was a really bright sunny day, and as a result it was incredibly vibrant anyway. And this, it just really worked as a kind of close-up study, but I think it makes an interesting shot. Certainly it's one I was happy with, and I liked the way it came together. Moving on to our third shot, or rather my third shot. So this is from a local art gallery, art shop and tattoo studio called the Trinity Collective in Swindon, where I live. And the owners of the Trinity Collective are friends of ours. We've known them for many years, and they hold art exhibitions on a fairly regular basis, and I go along and photograph them for them. And what they have outside the shop is a large ply wall. I mean, this thing is probably 2.5 metres by 2.5 metres, and it's a ply wall that anybody can come along and you can basically do street art on it. Grab some spray cans, put some street art on there. And this was part of, I think, if my memory serves me, the Reawakening exhibition that I had a piece of my photography exhibited in, and one of the artists who was exhibiting their work was outside, and they do a lot of street art, was outside putting this kind of, this, I don't know what to describe it, skull monster creature together and putting the final touches to it. And you can see as he's knelt down, it almost seems to come out of his head. And I really like that because, you know, this is a creation of the artist's mind, and we're seeing it almost come out of their head. And this was taken with the GX7 with available lights, so really the only light were the street lights around the side and the actual shop window, which would have been to the right of the individual. And the GX7 did an absolutely cracking job, and this would have been taken with the Lumix 20mm f1.7, and I just like the way the colours have worked, the lighting's worked, and just how the composition fell, you know, with the piece of art almost erupting out of the artist's head, certainly in the image anyway, which worked for me. So yeah, that's, as I say, that is the third image. The final one, not final one, last but one, I tell a lie, is, and we're back to black and white here, and this image is from a Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon tribute concert that I was asked to photograph by a friend of ours, Emma Dupay, she's a local musician. She's actually from the US, but she lives in Swindon and performs a lot in Swindon. And this was a gig that she's been touring around the country with a lot of other artists, where they use church organs in churches and cathedrals as the cornerstone around a tribute to Pink Floyd, focusing particularly on the Dark Side of the Moon album, but then also other Pink Floyd tracks from Wish You Were Here and The Wall predominantly. And they have a lot of smoke and a laser show and some really nice lights, and it was absolutely amazing gig. So they've played it in quite a few locations, and it came to Swindon and Emma asked me to go along and shoot it, and it was a fantastic opportunity. It was a fantastic evening, and I got some shots that I'm really happy with out of this. And the hardest choice here was actually narrowing down which images to include in the top 10, and I've actually got two, this one and our final one that will come into in a moment. So this one was taken again on the GX7. So that's all four of the first shots on the GX7, and again with the 20mm f1.7. And this was when there was a lot of smoke going around, and you can see how it's gradually obscuring as you go into the depth of the photograph. And the keyboard player, you also play guitar, but the keyboard player right at the front, and then the lead guitarist in the middle, and then Emma on vocals behind, just stack one after the other. And I just think it really works nicely as a gig shot, and I think it adds a lot of atmosphere to this. And black and white, despite the colourfulness, as we'll come on and see a moment, of the lights, I just think the black and white really adds to it in here, and I'm really pleased with how this shot came out. As I say, I'm really pleased actually with how a lot of the shots from this gig came out. So on to our final one of the top 5, and that is again from this Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon 50th anniversary gig. And this one's in colour. Now, this is from a slightly different perspective. And this one was taken on my Olympus EM1 Mark II, and would have been with the Olympus 45mm lens on there. And I actually had to get right behind the band, and this was shooting standing on a chair looking through a railing to be able to get this shot from behind them. But I absolutely loved how, again, the smoke, but this time with the coloured lights coming in from the side, just bathed everybody. And you know, the performers you can see them, but they're just on the edge of visibility. They're not quite shadows, but they're almost shadows. And in this case, you've got the lead guitarist, you've got Emma, and you've got, and I apologise, I can't remember her name, the lady playing saxophone there. And again, it just, you've got that dark shadow around it, so it's quite enveloping, and again, really atmospheric of the feeling of the concert itself. So these are the two that I've picked from that concert. If you do want to see all of the shots from this particular concert, and I really am pleased with how they've came out, so I think you might enjoy them if you like these two. In the description there's a link to my website. If you go and have a look on there, you'll be able to see the full set from it, including some that I shot on film with some Ilford Delta 3200 pushed to 6400 ASA and shot on a Canon A1, so there's a handful of shots from that in there. Now, this is where normally I would end the video, but I wanted to include an honourable mention this month, because it's a shot, while I don't consider it to be amongst the best that I've taken this month, it means quite a lot to me, and I just want to spend a few moments being a bit self-indulgent, and I do apologise for that, and if you don't want to listen to me be a bit self-indulgent, then please just stop the video now. I'm cool with that. But this shot, it was taken on a Minolta Hymatic C, so a 35mm viewfinder camera from the 70s, made by Minolta. I must confess, I can't remember off the top of my head what the film stock for this was. I will try and check that and post that in a text bubble. And this was shot, as you can see, in a mirror, but I deliberately focused on the frame of the mirror rather than my reflection in the mirror. So it's kind of a self-portrait, and I titled this one Self-Portrait of an Introvert when I posted it onto social media, because as some of you who listen to the channel may know, and I have mentioned it a few times, I hope I don't bang on about it too much, but I am autistic. I'm on the autistic spectrum, and it does affect how I interact with the world and how I communicate with the world. And despite this not being arguably a great photograph, the reason why it means so much to me, and the reason why I wanted to include it as a kind of honourable mention this month, is because this photograph, with the rest of the world, the frame, the wall behind it, the art on the wall behind it, being clear, sharp and in focus, and myself in the mirror being out of focus, not quite being there, it's the closest I've ever got in a photograph to summing up how sometimes being autistic impacts me when I'm communicating and interacting with the world, and that's why I wanted to include it. It's as simple as that. So yeah, that's the honourable mention. My apologies for the moment of self-indulgence there, but there we go. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching the video. If you have enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new content gets uploaded. Thanks once again for watching. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.